Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Understanding Your ICF Core Credentials or ICF Credentialing, the way it happens for your life coaching or executive coaching. One of the most essential parts of it is in our daily lives, what do we hear the most? You're not listening to me. I've said this so many times, but are you even listening to me? This is this is quite absurd. Rakesh, you're just not listening to me. I I want to go out there, but you're not listening to me. Be it in a personal relationship or a professional relationship, it always boils down to, I told this to my boss, but he's just not listening to me. He just cuts me in the middle of the sentence. He just not does not let me complete what I want to say. Listening is such an essential part of any conversation, be it with child, with your spouse, with your parents, in your professional setup, with your boss, your subordinates, your stakeholders, anyone and absolutely anyone needs to be listened to. And listening is just not the same as hearing. Keep giving a ear to our subordinates, our colleagues, our spouses, and everyone around. And we're just, kind of busy on our mobile or just working something or even looking at the TV, cooking, anything and everything that we want to do, which is essential parts of life. And, it takes our time. And we're like, yeah, yeah, tell me. I'm listening, listening, listening. I'm hearing you, what you're saying. I know what you want to say. And that's the worst when we say, I know what you want to say, and we are busy thinking about what's coming next and how to reply. Thinking is actually just about, or listening is just about not just giving an ear to the person, but being completely and wholly present with the person. And it really ties into the previous competency of maintains present. You have to be wholly and completely present to the person. And only then can you completely listen to the person. When you let go of all distractions that's there, when you let go of everything that's around and you're completely ready, not just to let the words come in, but to allow the person to completely express themselves, and you're listening to the whole expression of the person, what the person is saying, what the person is wanting to say, what the person is not saying. You're creating that space for the person so the person can be there completely and fully. I read something which is very, very beautiful. I found it's like listening is not just something that just happens. That is hearing. Listening is an active process in which a conscious decision is made to listen and to understand the message of the speaker. It's so beautiful. It's actually a conscious decision, it's a conscious process. It's not something which we're just sitting back, relaxing, and saying, like, yeah, let the words come in, and I already know. That's something that we do so many times with with every interaction that is there. And in coaching, it becomes that much more important because in coaching, you're not just listening for you to understand, you're also listening so that the other person understands what the other person is trying to say. Because at the end of the day, coaching is a process wherein you are raising the awareness of the person to what the person is wanting to say, what the person is not yet aware of. So your listening has to be that much more in depth. And that, my friends, is the sixth coaching competency of ICF, that listens actively. It falls under the bracket or the umbrella of communicating effectively. But listening actively, as defined by ICF, is focuses on what the client is and is not saying to fully understand what is being communicated in the context of the client's system and to support the client self expression. The last part is really, very beautiful. It says, in the context of the client system and to support the client self expression. It is not about your system, about what you as a coach, as a trainer, as a leader, as a parent, what you already know. It's about the client's system. Where is the client coming from? What is the history of the client? What are the values of the client? What is the beliefs of the client? What is the client's entire system that is being expressed by the client through verbals and through non-verbals? And that is why in coaching process it's so much important to be aware also of the client's non-verbals. The pauses the client takes, the tilts of the heads that the client has, the way the client's hand is moving when the client is slowing down, when the client is speeding up, everything becomes the expression of the client. And that is why, even when we are evaluating the coaching session, we are not just asking for the script, we are asking for the recording. Because in the recording, there is so much other expressions that is there, which cannot be captured in the script. The script has the words, and the words does not give the entire meaning to it. In fact, just taking a step back, even when we are listening to the client's words, there is so many times that we automatically say, "Actually, you said this, so this is what you mean." Oh, and I know, I've heard this before. So this is what you wanted to say. And that might completely change the meaning of what the client is actually wanting to say, or what the client is thinking about. Even one small thing, when you change about what the client is expressing, might change the entire meaning in the client's mind. And that has happened so many times when I was being coached, and I said, okay, I, what I want is to really move ahead in my career. I want to make a breakthrough. And the coach tells me back, and the coach told me back that, yeah, yeah, I heard you. So what you wanted to do is get a promotion, and you don't want to move forward. And that's not what I meant. I did not mean a promotion. I said I wanted to make a breakthrough, and completely different meaning in my mind, and completely differently how the coach said it. And there are times when the client goes ahead with what the coach has said. Because please understand, in the coach client relationship, there are lots of time when the client takes the coach as the superior person, as the one who's giving the situation. So it's doubly important for the coach not to give a meaning to what the client is saying. And if the client coach wants to clarify, if this is what you want to say, then ask the client instead of saying, yeah, yeah, I know this is what you want to say. Absolutely not. That's absolutely a no no in any coaching session. It's always with the permission of the client. So I hear you say this, and what comes to my mind is this. Is this what you mean? That's thorough listening. That's actually clarifying what you're hearing and what you're listening to the client as well. That becomes very important. So that's one part of it, right? So let's look at the parameters that ICF has for listens actively. The first parameter is considers the client's context, identity, environment, experiences, values, and beliefs to enhance understanding of what the client is communicating. So you're actually coming from the client's context, from the client's perspective, and not from your own perspective. Even when we are from the same identical kind of a family, identical kind of a setup, identical kind of an upbringing, even then the values and the beliefs and the experiences might differ so much. And imagine when your client is from a completely different kind of a setup. One is from India and one is from America. It could be completely different kind of values or experiences and environment, the kind of upbringing that is there. It could be completely and totally different. And when we try to foresee what the client might be saying, we are not really engaging the client's whole personality or whole beingness of the client, not even the personality. The beingness of the client is really allowing the client to completely be, and making space and not judging the client for their values or their beliefs, or thinking that this is where the client is coming from. It becomes very important to just be with the client. One, of course, it helps if you become yourself open to understand what are the various cultures and environments and values or identity that people might be holding on to, and just being open about it. Even then, even after you've done lots and lots of studies on it, even if you have done all your uh, training of what kind of upbringing or culture the other person might be having, uh, even after that, just being open, because the other person's experiences and beliefs could be completely different. Their upbringing could be completely different from what you have understood in your training or in your exercises or from the movies or whatever it is, right? So the second parameter is reflects or summarizes what the client communicated to ensure clarity and understanding. It goes back to what I was speaking earlier. You just summarize what the client was saying. Instead of trying to give meaning to it, just try to understand what the client is saying in the exact words of the client. And when you do that, you just allow the client to be. If the client is saying, I want to make a breakthrough, just asking the client, so what does making a breakthrough mean to you? Or asking permission to reframe it or to re understand it. What does the client mean by it? And it is actually coming from the client, even as a leader. If you are a leader or a parent and you stop giving meaning to what your subordinate or your child is trying to say, and you just listen to understand, you just listen to reflect, you just listen to make the other person understand, that same conversation will have so much more meaning instead of it turning into a fight. We have all experienced it, and it's a continuous process for a lot of us. We just continue experiencing this. It's like, yeah, I know this is what he meant, and the other person completely says, no, that's not what I meant. Are you even listening to me? And I keep going back to that because listening is such an essential part. It's so much different from hearing. Just listening to reflect and paraphrasing the client's words. As a beginner coach, we always say, even if you don't understand, just say, yes, I understand. As a beginner coach, you're allowed to do that. But the more you get into your presence, the more you get into your beingness as a coach, you actually start to understand. And when you start understanding, you create that space for the client to also understand themselves, to allow them to be the complete expression of who they are. And from this expression, something wonderful emerges. Looking at the parameters of listens actively, recognizes and inquires when there is more to what the client is communicating, notices, acknowledges, and explores the client's emotions, energy shifts, nonverbal cues, and other behaviors, integrates the client's words, tone of voice, body language to determine the full meaning of what is being communicated. And the last one and the sixth one notices trends in the client's behaviors and emotions across sessions to discern themes and patterns. This is again, it's actually across sessions. So if you have an ongoing relationship with a client, if you are with a client on the fifth session or the sixth session, you've actually started noticing trends in the client's patterns or the way of expressing emotions, which is again something that you can actually bring up to the client and say, I have noticed this. And using a very, very safe language. It's like, I have noticed this. That what you do is when you're thinking, your tonality really goes down. And then when you found something, it's almost there is like an energy shift in you, and you just kind of stand up straight. Is that correct? Is my observation make sense to you? When you say it like this, when you're observing across sessions and you bring it to the client's awareness, you are again giving client time and the authority and the empowering the client to think about it. Vis-a-vis when you say, every time you think, you kind of slow down. And when you have an aha moment, you kind of straighten up. This is something that I've noticed across all the sessions in you. Just let it be. You have actually derived your own conclusion and not letting the client participate in that conclusion that is there. So even when you are noticing trends and emotions across sessions, it's very, very important to bring it to the client's awareness, not as a judgment, not as a conclusion, but as an observation for the client to become aware of it. And I hope it really makes sense to you. And we can do it not just in our coaching sessions, but across all our uh, interactions as well. Of course, the previous one was integrates client's words, tone of voice, body language to determine the full meaning of what is being communicated. So, as I was saying earlier, you're just not being present to the client's words. you're being present to the whole of the client. You're listening to the whole of the client. The shift in the energy, the shift in the emotion, recognizing what the client is saying more than the words that is being expressed. So this requires you to be present to every shift in energy, in the tonality, whether it's going high, whether it's going low, to this pace of voice that is there. And the shift in the body language, if you have a video communication, and you will notice a lot of this can be done even on the phone as well, because you can notice the shift in energy, the tonality, everything on the phone as well, right? So of course, now everyone is very, very familiar with online coaching, but whether it's video on or video off, coaching works because you're not just noticing the body or language of the person, you're noticing the body language of the person through, in every manner the person is expressing through their voice as well, right? And you can just raise the person's awareness to it by just saying, if you're on the phone and you tell the client that, I want you to notice the way you are sitting right now. Can you do that for yourself? How is how is it that you're sitting? How is your body posture right now? Can you describe that to me? And the client's awareness is raised to it immediately, right? Of course, don't do it again and again and again. And that's the other trap of it. If you do it too much, if you match, if at every moment you keep saying, uh, I notice a shift in your body language, I notice a shift in your tonality, I notice, if you do it too often, the client's rhythm will also break. So it's about listening, it's about being aware, it's about noticing it, uh, at the same time knowing when to say it, when to raise awareness, and when to just notice it. So that's a shift that is there, which is very essential again. uh, Listening is the most fundamental component of any kind of interpersonal communication skill. As a coach, it's not just uh, a skill that is there, it's an essence that is there. And it goes together with maintains presence, it goes together with evokes awareness, because that's the next coaching competency that is there. Evokes awareness is, unless and until you're listening completely and you're listening actively, unless and until you're in your presence, evoking awareness to what the client is saying will become very, very difficult. In fact, almost, I can say it will not be possible without you listening actively. And listening again in the context of the agenda of the session is very, very important. That's, it's not just listening. If the client is moving from whatever the agenda was to a new relationship, let's say the client says, my agenda is, again, let's go back to the career, to move ahead in my career, to what the boss is saying or what the colleagues are saying, or how he needs more skills, or if it's deviating from it, if you sense it's deviating, you are actually going to loop it back to whatever is the coaching agenda. It's important for you to stick to the coaching agenda and not just listen actively to whatever the client is saying. Active listening, again, is about conscious decision. It's a decision to listen to the client. It is in the context of the agenda again. If the client finds something else which is more important, again, take the client's permission. Is this something that you want to talk about? So that's it for now from my side about listens actively to understand your ICF coaching credentials. If you have anything else that you would want to know more about how to get your own credentials, about how the competencies relate to you getting the credentials, or just how you can get how what are the steps to get your credentials, how you can be a life coach, executive coach, anything and everything related to coaching, you can just drop me a message or leave a comment. Of course, let me know how do you find uh, the ongoing sessions that I have been taking. What is it you're learning from it? As usual, I will be leaving a link for you to take a test on this competency very soon. Uh, and do take the test. Let me know how you fared in the test. See you soon. Bye bye. Have a nice day.